Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the August 23rd, 2021 Merriam City Council meeting. I'd like to start our meeting off by asking everyone to please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Sissom.
Here.
Councilmember DeBold.
Here.
Councilmember Hands. Here. Councilmember Caldwell.
Here.
Councilmember Naff.
Here.
Councilmember Neal.
Here.
Councilmember Pape.
Here.
Councilmember Silvers.
Here.
Councilmember Yodridge. Here.
Very good. Welcome, everyone. Next portion of our agenda is the public items portion, and members of the public are encouraged to use this time to make comments about matters that do not appear on the agenda. Comments about items on the regular agenda will be taken as each item is considered. Please note individuals making public comments are limited to 5 minutes. In accordance with the governing body rules and procedures, the city reserves the right to refuse public comments that are personal, impertinent, or slanderous. So we have a sign-up sheet that we make available prior to our meeting started for people who want to sign up to speak during public items, and there are no names on it, but you may have not been aware of this sign-up sheet. So if you're here to make a public comment, now would be the time for you to come forward. Seeing none, I'll go ahead and move out of public items and go to our consent agenda. We only have one item on the consent agenda this evening, and that's consider the approval of minutes for the City Council meeting held on August 9th, 2021. Is there any discussion needed on this item? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion and a second. Jason Silvers.
Mayor, I would like to, why am I missing this? Sorry. Oh, thank you. I move that the council approve consent agenda item 1. Thank you, Whitney.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Motion and second made. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember DeBold.
Aye.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Naff.
Aye.
Councilmember Neal.
Aye.
Councilmember Pape.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodridge. Aye. Motion passes 8-0.
Very good. In the mayor's report, I have one item listed. I do want to make a couple of mentions before we get to that. We have some unfortunate passings of individuals since our last meeting. The first person I will mention, his name is Melvin Quinn. If everyone here on the council knew Melvin, but Melvin was an elderly gentleman that used to come to our meetings. He came to them for years, lived up off of 54th and Schweitzer, 54th Terrace and Schweitzer. We helped him with a project, a drainage project. He was very, very, very patient with the city to get that done, but he became a great fan. He always used to sit in the back there, and he always had a smile on his face and something nice to say. And he's, of course, was also a decorated war veteran, and just wanted to make sure everyone was aware that he did pass away here recently. The second person actually was a city council member in years past. Mr. Bill Nye, who was an Idlewild resident, died at the age of 90. He served from 1978 to 80 on the Planning Commission, from 1980 to 1998 on the BZA, and then he was a council member from 1999 to 2003. He was one of the original residents of Idlewild, lived there many, many years with his wife. She preceded him in death, but Bill was a good guy. He was a committed councilman and a good resident, and we're sad to see him go as well. We have one other item this evening, and that's consider approval of a resolution endorsing the Climate Action Plan. We discussed this, I believe it was in our last meeting, and we talked about it, and I believe we did make some changes in it at the request of the council. So you should be familiar with what this is. Is there any, Mr. Engel, is there anything further that needs to be stated on that, or?
I don't believe so, but I'll defer to Ms. Jones-Lacey.
Thank you. No, you pretty much summed it up. But just to come in front of you. Yeah, this resolution is a result of the presentation that was given to you a couple weeks ago from Karen Clausen with Mark. And this is going to provide a plan potentially for the Green Team, which is going to have its first meeting next Monday, to kind of follow on making some sustainability improvements for the city. The resolution does state that these are recommendations, and we will do what we can within our purview and what makes sense to us to implement. So there are certainly no requirements on this.
And I guess for those in the audience that might not have been present 2 weeks ago, we're doing this in conjunction with two groups, the Regional Climate Action Plan and also the Mid-America Regional Council. So this is a metro community-wide effort. Mr. Knapp?
Who's on the green team?
We actually have about 17 individuals. There are 2 council members who are participating, and then the rest are staff.
No residents?
No residents at this point, no. It's going to be internally focused right now, just to start at least.
And that's in terms of what we can do with our buildings and our properties, right?
Right, and we hope to make this a long-term standing committee, so there's potential for evolutions in the future, but right now we want to kind of keep it somewhat narrowly focused within the realm of our control.
Any other questions? Well, entertain a motion then. Ms. Whitney?
Mayor, I move that the council approve a resolution endorsing the Regional Climate Action Plan.
Chris Hands?
And I'd like to second that, please.
Motion made and second. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Naff.
Aye.
Councilmember Neal.
Aye.
Councilmember Pape.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodrich.
Aye.
Councilmember DeBold.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Very good. That concludes the mayor report. We do have a couple of public hearings. And the first public hearing is to receive comments regarding the cities exceeding the revenue neutral mill rate. And you want to bring us up to speed on what that entails, Donna?
Yes, sir. Okay, the revenue neutral rate, just to kind of give you a background on our property tax for 2022, the general fund and bond fund would generate 6.2 million. That's an increase of 332 million. However, we're not projecting, I'm sorry? 332,000. Oh, did I say million? Oh, well, that would be good, or bad.
This
Okay,
isn't
so-
Overland Park, okay?
City mill rate, no change to it, so we're keeping the rate the same. And our final, or our assessed valuation preliminary is 226 million. This was our assessed property values, 53% commercial, 44% residential. Okay, in 2021, we had a change to the way property tax legislation is in the state of Kansas. The legislature repealed the old tax lid and they replaced it with a revenue neutral rate, which the revenue neutral rate is defined as the tax rate for the current tax year that would generate the same property tax revenue as levied the previous tax year using the current tax year's total assessed valuation. It doesn't include any allowance for CPI growth or any allowance for new construction. It just says you collect the same amount you collected last year. So if we intended to exceed it, we had to notify the county, which we did, and now we're having the public hearing to consider exceeding it, and then we'll need to pass a resolution to exceed it. To kind of give you an example, or it's not even really an example, real life of what we're talking about, last year our assessed valuation was $214 million, mill levy 27.558, that generated $5.9 million. This year, assessed valuation $226 million. And what happened is the county then took that 226 assessed valuation and said, what mill levy do we need to generate the same exact amount or relatively close amount of property tax levy? And so they made the revenue neutral rate 26.090 because it generates within a couple $100 of what we had last year. The budget, based on discussions that we've had with you, City Council, has been based totally on keeping the rate as is of 27.558, which would again generate the $6.2 million in property tax. Just as an example, or for informational purposes, if we were still under the tax lid and we went through the calculation for it, we would have been allowed to capture $436,000 in additional property tax revenue. So we are actually under the amount that would have been allowed under the tax lid. And you can see that across the board, other Johnson County cities are also intending to exceed the revenue rate, and we'll be having similar hearings to this. And so with that, that ends my presentation on the.
We did have some discussions about the purposes for this in the last meeting, so I don't know that there were any questions. If you have any new questions, now would be a good time to ask before we have a public hearing. Anybody have any questions, comments? Okay. All right, well then, go ahead and open up a public hearing, and the public hearing is designed to receive comments regarding the city of Merriam exceeding the revenue neutral mill rate. So any member of the public wants to come forward and discuss that or make a comment about that, now would be the time to come forward. Don't all rush up at once. We're going to do this one at a time, orderly fashion. Okay. Seeing none, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And we will move to the next public hearing, which is a public hearing for the 2022 budget.
As we have discussed, the budget that is up for consideration to be adopted includes $21,543,000 in general fund expenditures and transfers. This funds all of your staff, your police officers, your fire department, public works. It also, the transfers to other funds of $4 million funds your capital improvement plan and your equipment reserve fund. Total expenditures in this budget would be $28,121,000, with transfers would be $33,285,000. One thing to note for all of you, Mr. Bob Pape called because he noticed on the last page of the CIP document that was provided to you had a bad TIF map. It did not include the Kmart, and so this is the Kmart edition, and so this is the updated TIF map because obviously that does include that. So So with that being said, if there are any questions, I would be happy to answer about this part of it.
About the budget or just this map?
I'm sorry,
He wants to know, questions about this map or about the budget?
or either.
Yeah.
I actually was looking through the budget documents, and I did have a question. It's not anything in the slides, but and it more has to do with just what the current year that we're in now in comparison to the next year. It's page 33 of the packet, and it's budget overview, all funds combined.
Uh-huh.
And I was just trying to look at the 2021 budget versus the estimated 2021, and there's two categories that look like what we budgeted and what we estimated are somewhat different, and I was just curious as to what the reasons were. One of those was license fees, permits. It looks like that one's about 600,000 or 700,000 below what we budgeted. And then the second one is miscellaneous. And I was just kind of curious as to, because obviously 2022 budget is based on current numbers plus some adjustments, or at least thinking. So I was just curious as to what those actually were behind those, the difference between the budget and the estimated.
Whenever we budgeted last year, with license fees and permits, we assumed that the pandemic would be largely over and that the community center would be operating at full steam. And so we budgeted $1.4 million in revenue for it. And in actuality, collections are probably going to be about $700,000. We had, lower turnout through middle of May, and then since then, it's really picked up, memberships picked up, et cetera. So that's the difference there. And then on the miscellaneous, I'm sorry, could you give me the two numbers?
The budget was $2,274,000, and the estimated was $1,109,000 for this year.
Estimated for this year, I tell you what, it's miscellaneous, and off the top of my head, I'm not sure. I would have to go back, and I apologize, but.
Well, yeah, that's fine. The proposed 2022 is kind of in between those two numbers, so I was just curious as to what that was, but that's fine.
Okay. Oh, I can tell you. I'm sorry. I think at least a portion of that is reimbursements for capital projects like CARS revenue or CDBG, et cetera. And that some of that is going to just vary depending on what projects we're doing from year to year.
Thank you.
Any other questions about the budget before I open up for a public hearing? Okay, well, then I will open up the public hearing for the 2022 budget. Anyone who wishes to come forward with comments about the process or the 2022 budget, now will be the time to come forward. Good evening. For the record, please state your name and address.
Good evening. For the record, Billy Crone, 6633 Wed Street. I noticed the map of the West Vernon drainage project in our budget for next year, or in this council packet. And I just thought it might be worth including Timber Ridge in that, because we're kind of wrapped by West Vernon. As HOA president, I've been aware over the years of a number of over-the-ground drainage problems in our neighborhood, and if there's something we can learn from West Vernon that would apply in Timber Ridge or vice versa, it might be a good opportunity to economize on projects. So that's all I have.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wish to come forward? Okay, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
we probably should have already made the motion about, there was a motion about approving the resolution on the revenue neutral.
Oh, We can go back and do that. Let me see where I'm at with that. Okay, since we had a public hearing earlier on the revenue neutral mill rate, and that public hearing has concluded, I will entertain a motion. Bob Pape,
Sorry. Mayor, I'll move the council approve a resolution to levy a property tax rate exceeding the revenue neutral rate.
And I'll second that.
motion made and seconded. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Naff.
Aye.
Councilmember Neal.
Aye.
Councilmember Pape.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodrich.
Aye.
Councilmember DeBold.
Aye.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Very good, and thank you for reminding me that. The second item is the motion for the budget. Bob Pape, you want to run on that one this time?
I'll move the council approve a resolution adopting the 2022 budget, Mayor.
And Chris Hands?
And I will second that.
Motion made and seconded. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Naff.
Aye.
Councilmember Neal.
Aye.
Councilmember Pape.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodrich.
Aye.
Councilmember DeBold.
Aye.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Very good. Let's move to council items, and the first item on the agenda is agenda management software presentation.
Okay. Hello again. Okay, tonight I wanted to talk to you about agenda management software, and this is kind of just an overview of something that staff is pretty excited about. I think it's going to really help us with efficiency in creating our council packets, and hopefully it will be something that you all really appreciate as well. So I'm going to walk right through this, and if you have any questions, please feel free to jump in. So why are we looking at agenda management software? Well, the key reason is to increase efficiency and ease for staff, namely Julie, who creates the agenda, and Chris as well, who reviews all of the items. It'll make it a lot easier for both of them to have a process where items are routed through a workflow, and she can organize it very easily within a cloud-based system. And also, everything will be standardized this way, so all of the action forms will look the same, and it'll be very consistent throughout. It will also simplify meeting generation through automated process, so it takes the agenda that we load into the system, uses that as a template, and creates the minutes, and then she can actually select from drop-down menu various motions as she goes, so it should simplify and speed up that process. It creates a very user-friendly platform for council, and I'll show you guys what that looks like in a bit. It builds a very easily searchable database of prior items, so staff can basically duplicate what they'd done in prior years. Once it's loaded into the system, they can just search for that item. For example, budget hearing, we do that every single year. Donna can find that from the prior year and basically just copy it into the new agenda, make various modifications, and then put it into the packet. It's also cloud-based storage, so none of that is taking up room on our server, and it's transferable if we ever decide to discontinue use. We reviewed several products, and by we, I mean myself, our city clerk, Julie, Brian Dyer, and Anna Slocum, and the idea was that potentially we could use it for not only council, but other boards and commissions as well. And we looked at iCompass by Diligent, Municode Meeting, Civic Clerk, and Peak by Granicus. And it became clear after doing all the demos that iCompass really seemed to be the best product for us. And the reason being is that it got really great reviews from some of the neighboring communities who use it. That includes Lawrence, Overland Park, Shawnee. They love it. It's used by 16,000 different organizations globally and has a 96% retention rate, which is a huge deal because that just shows that people really appreciate it. And we liked all the features that were included in the base package as opposed to having to buy up. It has a customizable landing page, so I'm going to kind of walk through some of the features really quick for you. And this is hosted on the city's website, and this is Overland Park's version. So it'll have our logo and look like our website, but it's specifically it's iCompass. And we can add whatever icons onto that page that we want. As you can see, Overland Park has Meet Your Mayor and Council. We would obviously have a search for various items that you could put on there. They have live streaming, and they have an additional service where they encode the video. But we can also link to our video archives as well through this platform. It has workflow features, and this is a way that the author of the agenda item can route their items specifically to various parties in order to review it. So we can set it up so that all contractual agenda items would go from the author to Ryan, city attorney, to Chris as the final approver, and then on to Julie to put it onto the agenda. So we can set up multiple workflows like that just to kind of create efficiencies there. So that should be pretty helpful. It also has a detailed search for the public, and this is also something that you all could use that would be hosted on our website, and you can put in specific search items. You can put in and/or options. When you do that search, it'll pull up anything that's within the software, including items on the agenda, attachments, minutes, etc. So it's actually very helpful and a very easy way for people from the public to find different things in the system. And this is the Agenda Notes app. So this is what you all would use on your iPads, or you could use on your iPads. And it is an app specifically for Macs. And you can use this, and this is basically what it would look like. It could show you all of your upcoming agendas, your past agendas, and you can easily, within the system, annotate your items. So in advance, you can go in and make notes on anything that you want to make comments on or have questions on. You can highlight things, circle. It also has a split screen feature, which is really handy. So it has your agenda on the left-hand side, and then if you click on an item, it will pull up the actual action item on the right-hand side, and so you can see both at the same time. And if you happen to use a PC, you can log into the website and find the same notes that you put in the app. So it's private to you, and you can only access that via your login. It has several things that I call bonus features because it's not something that we were really looking for, but it's nice to have. So there's Laserfish integration, so we can easily attach things directly from Laserfish or save things into Laserfish from iCompass. There is an option for digital voting and hand raising through the portal, something that you don't have to use, but if you did choose to use, say, digital voting, everybody could put in their vote on an item, and then it would populate all at once. And so Julie would kind of be in control of that. It has a couple of things that are called trackers that we really liked, one of which was a contract and agreement tracker, which is essentially a database that will house all of our agreements citywide. So for all departments, it could show the vendor, the term of the agreement, the renewal rate, all of those details that sometimes get lost, and it can notify you if you need to do a renewal or bring something to council. So we thought that would be really helpful. It also has an option for public requests, records request trackers. So people can fill out a public records request, and it would automatically alert staff to incoming requests, and we can manage the progress of that request. There's also unlimited user training, 24-hour support, and then access to video tutorials as well. The total cost of this is $7,500 per year, and that is a 3% annual increase. And there are some additional features that we could choose to buy up on if we wanted to. At this point, we're not suggesting that, but They do allow for some additional functionality if we so chose. One of those is the video timestamping, and what that is basically it links our agenda to our videos so that if somebody wanted to watch a video of, say, the third item down on agenda, they can click on that item and that piece of the video will pop up, as opposed to them having to scroll through it manually. It has a board manager tool, which just tracks terms, rosters, applications via a dashboard. And then there's an agenda and minutes migration option, which basically takes everything that we've already done, and then we can upload it into the system, and that's a one-time fee of $1,000. So that is basically the whole thing. If you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to respond.
Mr. Neal?
Yeah, the last item on there sort of may have answered or may be a solution to one of my questions. If we were going to have a searchable history and we're just starting it and it's only what's in the system, that might be misleading if somebody actually goes online and doesn't see the previous stuff. So if we did that, the agenda and minutes migration, would that also be searchable?
Yes, that is what that would mean. So we would just need to pay for that, and we would send all of that information to iCompass, and then they would take care of uploading it for us.
How far back would they go, do you know?
They did not specify any sort of restrictions. I could double check on that to see how far back they would go, but they didn't indicate that there was a specific limit.
Well, I certainly think that would be a good $1,000 expenditure.
Anybody else support that possibility?
Especially since they're searchable, because I've spent a lot of time trying to remember when certain things were discussed.
Mr. Silvers, do you have anything else, Mr. Neal? Mr. Silvers?
I had a question about the public-facing agenda page. So you had mentioned that it can be branded like our Merriam webpage, which we just revamped. So is this going to work in parallel with what we already have? Are we basically going to have duplicate pages, or is our website going to redirect to the iCompass page like seamlessly so people don't know that they're being redirected?
Right, so basically the latter. It won't be, you'd click on the agenda and minutes page from, say, the home page, and it'll take you directly to a site that looks like this. So it is actually an iCompass site, but we'll house it on ours, and you wouldn't know the difference as a member of the public. I mean, the structure is slightly different, but it's going to look like a Merriam webpage.
And you can get back easily?
Yeah, you just hit the back button, or you could hit, if you click on that logo, that'll take you back to our homepage as well.
Okay, so we will just be abandoning that page on our website?
In essence, we'll be basically migrating so as not to confuse people.
Okay.
And especially if we are going to take our archival information and put it in here, then it will be essentially the same.
Okay, that's great, because I was afraid that if we were mirroring,
Yeah.
there was the chance of one of the pages to have, say, an agenda that's older than another and could cause confusion among residents. So if we can abandon one and migrate over to the other, that's perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. We would certainly only do one.
Shadrich?
I just thought of something. So using the regular search feature on the website, that would only search like site content that's on the actual pages. It wouldn't include any of the agendas and minute stuff, correct?
That's an excellent question, and it should link, but I would have to check on that.
Okay.
Very good question. And if that's the case, we'll have to make that very clear on our website that if you are looking for a specific, item regarding agendas and minutes, that this would be the search to use. But it's a very advanced program, and so I would think that they have created a solution for that, but we'll double check on that.
Cool. I do have one other question too. Should we go with this and then opt to leave iCompass at some point? Do they offer us an export of our data, or they do?
Yes, we get to keep our data.
Okay, great.
Any other questions?
Which also means we're responsible for backing it up and taking care of it, right?
Yes, yeah. So if we were to ever leave iCompass, they would, give us, we own the data, so we would keep it, and then, yeah, we would just load it into our server, or if we had a different software we wanted to use, migrate it over to that new one.
But, sorry, may I respond?
Good.
Just to clarify, though, that iCompass takes care of it for us,
Oh,
even
yeah.
though we own it. So we
Absolutely.
don't, they back it up, they take snapshots, they do.
Yes, they
all
do
that.
all of that.
Okay.
They provide the service for 16,000 different agencies, and so they're very secure.
These questions just keep building on each other. So if for some reason we do leave iCompass, is our server and backup system large enough? Because it sounds like we're going to actually maybe be creating additional, or they're going to be creating additional backup past information. Like, do we have, is everything that we have digital, or do we have some paper stuff that we will have them make digital? And do we have the ability to back that up if we ever take that back?
Well, everything that we currently have is already on our server, and we have it, we have it in Laserfish
Yes.
as well, the
All the
archives.
minutes, all the packets, everything is put into Laserfish. So Laserfish is kind of our records repository for electronic records. So we would have it anyway.
Okay,
And we
I
would-
just didn't want to run into a financial issue down the road if they're going to take paper and make it digital and then we take it back, but we don't have the capability of handling that much data.
Yeah.
But you're saying we do, so.
Yeah, Julie's already on top of that.
Yeah, we already have it digital.
Mr. Caldwell?
So we'll be entering into an annual contract with them for $7,500 a year? And is that just 1 year at a time?
Yes,
Is the 1,000 that we'd add, that's a one-time charge?
right.
Any other questions?
I just have one. What in the world will Julie do once she gets this all learned?
Take more vacation.
kidding.
She doesn't
I'm
lose it.
Well, this doesn't require a motion, so have we given you enough direction?
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted you all to see it since you are going to be using it. And once we implement it, which implementation, we anticipate probably beginning of next year would be a good time frame. We will show you sort of a demo, a walkthrough of how to use it. I'm thinking it'll be very intuitive from your perspectives, but we also have a lot of tutorials that we can share if there are ever any questions, and of course, staff will always be helpful.
There's enough
here
money
help.
to cover the extra 1,000, I presume, somewhere.
Yes,
Yeah.
not a problem.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is consider approval of a supplemental agreement with BHC for additional sidewalk design. Mr. McDonough, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Council. This evening, I'm seeking approval of the supplemental agreement with BHC for additional sidewalk engineering to install sidewalks along the south side of 55th Street from Schweitzer to Merriam Drive, which would take place during our 55th Street CARS project that's set to begin in 2022. On May 10th, council approved $230,979 for the original engineering agreement. It was determined once we did a site walkthrough and a design meeting that the original scope did not include the sidewalk on the south side of 55th Street. Recently approved, the 2040 Comprehensive Plan recommends that high-priority sidewalks take place on 55th Street from Schweitzer to Merriam Drive. The comprehensive plan recommends that on higher traffic streets, those with more than 3,000 cars, have sidewalks constructed on both sides of the roadway with a minimum of 5 feet, preferably 6 feet. The approval of this agreement would bring our total engineering estimate costs to $271,095. And our original construction budget did not account for the sidewalks on the south side. Therefore, we may be requesting 22 more additional funds to complete that project. I'm here for any questions.
Do we anticipate any pushback on the part of the people who live on 55th Street?
There possibly may be. There is 32 properties that will be impacted, and there is, I believe, 12 tracks that we don't currently have enough right-of-way. So we may have to acquire some additional right-of-way to put sidewalks on that side of the road.
So this is just for the design work, so we haven't got that far yet.
Correct. The engineers got to tell us they got to do more surveys and determine what we have to do and what takes place.
Good. Any questions about Mr. Silver?
If I'm thinking of the correct street, I believe there's a property there that's at the end of a T intersection, and they have some, a barrier that prevents, I guess they must have had problems with people running that T intersection and landing in their house. Is
Yes,
that-
with the guardrail that you're talking
Yes.
about, yes.
Is that going to remain?
That will most likely be removed. That resident actually reached out to us asking why we need that, and we can talk to our engineer, and it is not needed at that intersection, so most likely that will be removed.
Was that installed before it was a stop sign?
That's a T intersection, so it'd be going southbound on, I think it's Schweitzer. And I'm not, it was been here before me, and I've started in '92, so I couldn't tell you why they put that.
Yeah, it is Schweitzer, and I'm glad to hear that, I was afraid that the resident would be mad if it was removed, but I'm glad to hear that they actually want it removed.
Yeah, they're tired of weed eating around it.
It
Yes.
probably makes your job a lot easier
Yes.
getting rid of that, so, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Mr. Bowman?
You say that most of will already be in predetermined right-of-way, so there's going to have to be some land acquisition, obviously buying from residents. Do we have any idea what that might be? Because that's going to be part of you coming back and wanting more money, is that correct?
Yeah, well, some of that is usually built into the budget. We anticipate some sort of acquisition. I don't have the experience to know how much we'll be asking. I don't think it's a tremendous amount of money.
Okay, well, if there are no other questions, I'll entertain a motion in a second. Motion first. Anybody? Mr. Pate?
Yeah, Mayor, I move that we consider approval of a supplemental agreement with BHC for additional sidewalk design.
And I'll need a second. Mr. DeVold?
I'll second that.
Motion made and second. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Neal,
Aye.
Councilmember Pape,
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers,
Aye.
Councilmember Yodridge,
Aye.
Councilmember DeBold,
Aye.
Councilmember Hands,
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell,
Aye.
Councilmember Naff.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Very good. Next item is our monthly finance report.
Our July monthly financial report was included in your packet. Our revenues really continue to be on target, but much like we've talked about before, the transient guest tax has still tended to be low. That is the hotel motel tax, and however, it's shown some signs of improving. If you look at expenditures, everything is still currently under budget for the year. One that looks like it's very under budget is the OP fire service. That's because through the end of July, we had only paid for the first quarter, but in August, we did pay the second quarter. And so it was $560,000, which would bring that up to right at 1.1 million, but still well within what you would expect for the budget. One thing to note, based on your comments, Mr. Neal, this graph, we've now added 2019 as well, so you'll have 3 years to view going forward. So, and certainly any other feedback on what could make this document more useful to you is greatly appreciated, and we would be happy to accommodate other requests as well. So unless there's questions.
Just want to say thank you.
Oh, sure.
No? No questions?
thank you.
Thank you very much. Last item under council items is the community development update. Mr. Dyer?
Good evening, Mayor,
council members, Brian Dyer, Community Development Director. So we just have a few updates on a couple of items. First of all, Bob's Discount Furniture, who has taken the north side of the old hen house. They are going to be slated to open in Labor Day. I know everybody's seen all the TV commercials, so
Yeah.
it's finally going to happen. That hitchhiker that gets picked up is finally going to get to buy some furniture at Bob's Discount Furniture. So that is coming up. Also, we're working on the Plan Sustainable Places grants. Plans are still going forward. The northern part, northern part of Merriam Drive, Merriam Lane, is a little bit further ahead than the downtown part. But downtown this week, we've got doing some walkthroughs with advisory members. Any council member would like to participate in that, so that is going on this week. And then also this week, it's a busy week on the planning side of things. We'll also have another meeting on our bike ped plan with our consultant on that. So we're moving forward with that. And then the last thing I have is, again, we appreciate all the new grants that are included in the budget that you all approved this evening. Just to let you know, we will start working very soon. We actually have already started working, but we'll start doing more outreach with the communication team on both of those grants, particularly the driveway grant. We'll really start pushing that out here late summer, early fall, because as I mentioned last time, we're going to try to get identify all the driveways and folks that qualify that can participate in that project, so we can get that together, and then at the first of next year, put it all out in one bid package. We're getting that out and getting work on that here pretty soon. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
On Bob's, they reached out to me on a ribbon cutting ceremony. I don't know if you have anything to do with that. But their mentioned date was the 2nd of September.
That was not the date that I got. And they probably would be going through, I hope they're going through the Northeast Johnson County.
They were not at the time I talked to them.
Okay. My understanding it was don't quote me, nobody quote me, but my understanding it was September 4th is the official opening of it.
Which
And
is
that would
Saturday.
be a Saturday.
Yeah, okay, well, I actually encouraged them to reach out to the chamber
Okay.
because I explained that they typically do a lot of those, not that they're required to, and they said they were going to, and they hadn't got back to me, so. I guess one of the reasons I mentioned is it's uncertain because that was a tentative date, but I want to make sure that the council was aware that there are plans to do a ribbon cutting, and certainly
We can certainly reach out we can reach out to the Northeast Johnson County Chambers. They've been contacted, and if they haven't, I can reach back out to the folks who've been contacting me in regards to the opening, and we'll try to get all those folks on the same page then, as
Very
best we
good.
can.
Thank you. Any questions about community development? Anything new on Kmart?
Not this evening, Mayor.
Okay. I have a question for Mr. Engel. Don't know, this might have to do with community development. I went by Kmart site yesterday, and the depository, I don't know what you call them, but the bins that are made available for people to donate clothing are all overflowing. It looks very, very bad. This isn't a new problem, so.
They were very bad. We contacted them. They had them cleaned up. We suggested that they get them, we contacted the owner, told her that they were in horrible shape. They need to be cleaned up. I believe they were cleaned up. We suggested to the owner that they get rid of them. They did not. And then they filled back up again. We will reach out yet again to the property owner. We've recommended that they just be removed.
Right, well, you can mention that the mayor said that that area is blighted and enough look, and it doesn't need any help from those. And I have no problem with the whole effort of having a place to donate clothing, but believe me, there's probably about 4 or 5 businesses that are open and operational and will take their donations, and they don't need to be throwing them out there in the parking lot.
Right. No, we've strongly encouraged owners that those probably need to be located at a different place for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
So
Okay, any other questions? Thank you.
we'll reach back out though. Thanks, man.
Appreciate it. Okay, under staff items, we have one item listed, and that's the sale of a fire truck to Overland Park Fire Department.
Yeah, Mayor, I'll take that. This is just an informational item for the council. Wanted to make sure that they were aware that staff was going to transfer ownership through sale of the old E426 fire truck to Overland Park Fire Department. Earlier this year, we took possession of the new Pierce fire engine. If you remember, some of you were at the push-in earlier in the spring. That renders the 20-year-old engine that we have surplus material. So we need to find a way to get rid of it, transfer it, whatever it is that we choose to do with it. We have an internal policy that governs how we dispose of property at the staff level through Administrative Regulation Number 5. As we were trying to, and basically what that one provides guidance to department heads that if there's items that we think cost over $5,000, that we should try to get rid of them through competitive bid, which is why we go through Purple Wave most of the time on these larger priced items. But what you'll also see included in your packet in Administrative Regulation Number 5 is that transfer of surplus property between departments is actually the best method of disposition, simply because we still benefit from that piece of whatever it is, whether it's a file cabinet or a fire truck. OPFD did approach us, and because of the age of that piece of fire apparatus and the lack of technology, I kind of use the word bells and whistles in the action form, it's perfect for training purposes because it doesn't have all of those other technological things on it. It just really has the meat and potatoes of what a fire truck is, the most important pieces of it. So OPFD, Chief Diener, who's in the audience this evening, approached, and we've talked about it for several months. We put Ross, who manages Ross Davis in our Public Works Department, who's our fleet manager. We kind of put him to task on going out onto the market and figuring out what the value of that piece of apparatus would be. He came up with $20,000, well, not he, but his research and through conversations with the national reseller, $20,000 was a good baseline price. So felt like that was a fair transaction with Overland Park. They, as I put in the action form, they have a huge focus on training, as our firefighters. A well-trained OPFD employee is of direct benefit to our Merriam residents, so this seemed like it made a lot of sense. Just wanted to make sure council was aware that that was the decision that I thought was the best way to dispose of that fire truck. Happy to answer any questions about that. Chief Diener's here. He's happy to answer any questions about it also, if you have anything in particular.
Anybody have any questions?
I just go on record as the past fire chief. I think it's a good idea.
I thought maybe we could have an auction. Maybe one of us would want to buy it for more, run that price up or something.
Well, just very much appreciate it. Happy to answer any questions. Just in addition to training, one thing I think it's important is the Blue Valley School District kids will be using that through the day, Monday through Friday. And Johnson County Community College Fire Science Program will be using that on the weekends and those types of things. So it's our training center rig that will take the place of a 1985 fire truck that is ready to retire. And even though we had some reserves that were a little newer, this truck, I think, will last much longer in that capacity, again, without all the telemetry and computer systems and stuff like that that cause problems when they're not used every day. So we'll take good care of it.
Okay. Well,
Happy to answer any other questions.
any other questions? Okay, well, that was just a notice only, right?
Yes, sir.
And any other staff items? None?
Not
Okay.
at this time.
As far as I know, we don't have any old business, so no new business. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Somebody down here want to do it?
Yeah.
We'll let you. Okay. We're so used to it.
Yeah, I know, but I was checking to see. I'd like to make a motion, Mayor, that we adjourn.
And I'll second that.
Made and seconded. Madam Clerk?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.